more consent agreements to the agenda for consideration. One in the matter of Kim L. Nguyen, DBA People and Polish Nails, and the other in the matter of Kim Nguyen.
Okay, that's your
motion?
That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
I was with you. Oh, I was
Okay, we got two new consent agreements being presented to you for approval today. Actually, these came into my office this morning, and my secretary emailed me and said, good, let's, take them up today rather than let it sit for another month. Pamper and Polish Nails is a manicure salon on Franklin Avenue in New Orleans, and the owner is Kim Nguyen, and Kim Nguyen has a manicurist license. On February 18th, 2015, there was one unlicensed individual working as a manicurist at that salon. It's the first violation that we've had for this salon. So the agreement, the consent agreement they signed is that the salon, Pamper and Polish Nails, is paying a fine and cost of $950 in their probation. Their license is a probation for a year. And the owner, Kim Nguyen, on her manicurist license is paying a fine and cost of $850, and her license is on probation for a year. And that's it.
Mr. Landry, are y'all here for your consent? All of y'all.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
We have a lot of witnesses.
Okay.
Mr. Landry is going to request that the witnesses be sequestered.
Okay.
Do you want them to bring them all in so you can give them some instruction and swear them in, and that might save some time having to stop and swear them in?
If you guys are going to be a witness, I think you're going to be a witness. Just go ahead and stand up.
Since she's asked that you bring in all witnesses, so she can instruct them on the rules of administration, and then can be sworn in, and we won't have to stop to swear. Is that okay?
2 months, you have to go back and make sure that
Those two gentlemen have us right
How y'all
there.
doing?
It's okay, so
Edward Landry, I'm here on behalf of Nelda, Dural. I sure do. Don't generally.
So, Mr. Landry, who's your client?
Nelda Dural,
It's NELDA, and what's the last name?
DURAL.
Okay, do you just represent the individual and not the institute? Is it-
No, I represent both.
Who's the other
we're
person?
gonna have to go
Iberia Cosmetology,
take the same.
21 inches.
Okay, Iberia Cosmetology School.
Just the two. ICI.
No problem. Wow.
Okay, there's a lot of people here, so. Ms. Morris, do you want to identify those that are your witnesses? And if Ms. Morris says your name, let me know if you're here, okay? I'd write it down, so give me a second.
I'm going to give you a witness list, you might have to write it down.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Is that okay?
Yeah. This is an exhibit list. Okay, Ms. Hand's the presiding officer today. Ms. Hand's asked me to explain to the witnesses the rule of sequestration.
Yes.
Okay, and is somebody requested that the witnesses be placed under sequestration?
Mr. Landry.
Has your request that the witnesses be placed
Yes,
under
ma'am.
sequestration? Okay, so, Angela Baudouin?
Here.
Okay, Angela, kind of, I know it's
Sure.
awkward, move over here, because I gotta know who I'm swearing in and who I'm not. Okay, Donna Bork, Donna, can you move over here? I'm sorry. You're not gonna be here long. Miss Butler, Tasha Butler, you're a witness?
Ask if she can be exempt from the rules of sequestration because she's our staff.
I have no objection.
Okay, so Ms. Butler's exempt from the rule of sequestration as a representative of the Board of Cosmetology. Scott Carpenter?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter, can you just move over here? You're not gonna be there long. Zoyavic Carpenter? How'd I do with your name? Good? Yeah.
Not so good.
I did okay. Jasmine Carazales Arthur Carpenter? Okay. Kivonte Duce? How'd I do? Not good, huh? I can tell from your face. All right, Nelda Dural, and she's the party, and you're Miss Dural. Okay, she's gonna be exempt from the rule, Ms. Frost. Okay, Christine Guidry?
Right here.
Okay, Ms. Guidry, can you move over there? I'm sorry. Michelle Guidry?
Right here.
Okay, Michelle, go on. Vanette Hartman? Ms. Hartman, just, y'all are proud of it, you're not gonna be there long. I just need to know who's where. Tram Nguyen?
We were unable to locate him,
So he's not present yet, right?
don't expect him to be present.
Okay. Dane Ortega, just kind of move over a little bit. Bahari Patel, Mr. Patel, Miss Patel, no Patel? Okay, that one's not present.
We did have another rule.
Alton Prejean? No
Prejean.
Prejean? Not present.
Alton Prejean, just for the record, he works offshore. He contacted me on Friday. He had to go to offshore on Saturday. And he had filed a complaint and he wants to proceed with his complaint, but he couldn't reschedule his work.
Okay. And Renata Prejean?
Renata Prejean contacted me. She resides in Houston and was unable to arrange transportation for today's proceeding, but she did send written information to us.
Okay. All of you whose names called has been identified as that you're going to be a witness that Ms. Morris is going to call for her case in chief. Mr. Landry, the other lawyer, has asked that y'all all be placed under the rule of sequestration. It's a big word. It's not that hard, though. I'll tell you what it means. It means you got to stay outside. You can't be in here during the hearing. Not that we had room for you anyway. And it also means, and this is the most important thing, is that you can't discuss the case or discuss your testimony with anybody until after you're released from the rule of sequestration.
Okay,
So
wait.
what?
These are my witnesses. I think Mr. Landry has some witnesses.
I know, but there's so many, I'm gonna try to get them out of the room and then get the other
Do
ones
it
in.
again, okay.
You know, so it means you can't discuss the case with each other. And even after you testify the first one, you can't go outside and say, they asked me this, they asked me that. You cannot discuss the case with anybody until you're released from the rule of sequestration. So y'all gotta talk about how gross the weather is, how hard it was to find a place to park, and that kind of stuff. Does anybody have any questions about the rule of sequestration? Ms. Morris, you want us to swear them all in now, or?
I think that would make the proceeding go faster.
Okay, so if you got all raise your right hand, the court reporter is gonna swear you in. And this applies to your testimony. So when you testify, you're gonna be placed under oath and sworn to tell the truth. All right.
Okay, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to be giving will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know where to tell y'all to go either.
Mr. Stephen.
But maybe Mr. Young might have some place for you to hang out.
Where would you like him to hang out?
You have to go back to the front until they finish the test.
Okay, Mr. Landry, do you have a witness list, or you just gonna tell me their name?
We just have one witness, well, of course, Nelda, but we have Morgan Harmon is the only one.
Okay.
We-
What is the name? I'm sorry.
Morgan Harmon. We may call him, we're not sure.
Morgan Harmon, Harmon.
Yes, ma'am,
Is that a Mr. or Miss?
yes.
Ms. Harmon here? Ms. Harmon, can you stand up? You heard me explaining to the other witnesses with the rule of sequestration. You're going to be placed under the rule of sequestration too and have to stay outside of the room during the trial or the hearing. And what the rule of sequestration means is you can't discuss your testimony or anything about the case with anybody. The only exception is if one of the lawyers wants to come talk to you, you can talk to that lawyer. I didn't tell those other people that. I will. But you can only talk to the lawyer alone. You can't talk to the lawyer in front of other people. Okay, does that make sense to you? All right, you want to raise your right hand and repeat or swear you in?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will be giving today will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So, Ms. Harmon, I'm sorry, you're outside due.
Ms. Morris, are you ready to present?
We are. I'd like to call Donna Bork as the first witness. Donna Bork.
Donna Bork.
Before we call Mrs.
Donna Bork.
It's been agreed, Mr. Landry and I agreed that it's not necessary to call the board staff to authenticate the notices because she is present, but I would like for the board to have copies of the complaints. So I need copies. We have two dockets. It's docket 15018, that's in the matter of Nelda Dural, and 15019, which is in the matter of Iberia Cosmetology Institute. And so I have, I believe, 8 copies of the 2 complaints.
Are you putting one copy of each in evidence?
Yes, as part of the record.
Okay. You want to give them numbers or not? It's going to mess up your numbers.
I have it numbered in my exhibits as 11A and 11B.
Okay.
11A is docket number 18, and 11B is docket number 19. And if Mr. Landry doesn't object, can I give the hearing officer the exhibits and she can just,
Oh, yes,
it's the same ones I provided to you.
Board accept 11A and 11B.
Or any of these first.
If I didn't wait all.
This is a pre-marked set of exhibits that help us access to the top page. They're marked.
Okay, and y'all are admitting this by agreement?
Those are, oh, wait, is this, one second.
That was what was on the exhibit list.
Sherry, look, the first one is like 1B, and then this is, you got these 2 pages.
There's a
before.
missing page. I thought I had handed it to you with that other. But it's one missing page.
I got it.
I thought you had to have it.
This is, you don't have it.
I do, it's number 12. It's the last page.
Yeah.
Okay, so are y'all admitting these by agreement or
The
not?
only one that, initially that I have some objection to is she has an Iberia Parish Sheriff's report that, I believe would be inappropriate, being that, it was not a report that was created with Ms. Dural's
Do
petition.
you know what number exhibit? that is?
Number 12.
Okay, so, is this fair to say? Board exhibit 1A, 1B, 1C, 1G, 1E, 1F,
It's on that list.
G, 1H, 1I, 1J, 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D, 2E, 2F, 2G, 2H, 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 4A, 4B, 4C. 4D, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, 6A, 6B, 6C, 6D, 6E, 7A, 7B, 7C, 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, 8H, 8I, 8J, 8K, 8L, 9A, 9B, 9C. And then there's an 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, 8H, 8I, 8J, 8K, 8L, 10A, 10B, 10C, 10D, 10E, 10F, 10G, 10H, 10I, 10J, 10K, 10L, 11A, which is already in evidence, 11B, which is already in evidence, are admitted by agreement. Board Exhibit 12 is going to be held, Ms. Morris, until you lay a foundation or establish some, because it's not admitted by agreement.
That's fine. When you were listing, you said 6D, and I don't believe there is a 6D.
Because I drink, don't you? I got a 6E, I don't know what it is.
It might be a deed to something else.
Not because it's something you want in or not.
There is a 6D, but it's not on the exhibit list.
So you don't, you want it in?
Yes.
You want to look
One
at
of the
6E?
components.
No, she found out.
Who is this that said?
Okay, do you have objection to it, or you want her
I
to?
said it to you.
I don't have an objection.
Okay, so six, so all the ones this hand, there's no, objection that we read the numbers, or do you want to admit those?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And just for the record, there are redactions on some of the documents, mostly social security numbers, things that the board's not allowed to produce.
Could I address, no, that's fine, that's fine. Could I address the exhibit, what we did is we filed a formal response with some attachments. I did not understand that we needed a copy, so I don't even know how many people were on the board, to be frank with you, but it's in the record, and I just wanted to adopt it, and I don't believe she has any objection to that being our exhibit as well.
I don't, I think Ms. Butler probably has a copy of this, the response to the informal notice, I believe is what Mr. Landry is referring to. And we can have copies made, I have no objection to her response to the informal notice.
Okay. Is there any number that you want, do you have any numbers on your exhibits?
No, ma'am, it could be D1.
Okay, so D, we're gonna label his response as D1, Ms. Payne, do you want to admit that in evidence?
I have it if it's not in the record. Is this the?
If somebody who's putting in evidence, you just gotta give me a copy of what you're looking at.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess we, can I put this copy in? Do you have it? I see.
We can have somebody make.
Yeah, can make a copy. We'll put this in Globo as D1,
Okay.
which is our response.
Got it.
So I did it.
Thank you.
call Ms. Bork as my first witness. Do you want to do a brief opening? We have a brief opening.
I think the board, because doesn't know what the case is about, so if you guys want to each give us a brief opening statement, so just kind of let people know what we're talking about, or what the case is about, or what the defense is.
Ms. Nelda Dural is the owner of Iberia Cosmetology Institute located in New Iberia. It's a small school that's been operating for a number of years, and the board received a number of complaints from students. The complaints are the types of things that would not be evident on an inspection report, but the types of things that happen during the school day. A lot of them arise out of disputes over funding. A lot of the students say that the school is not open and operating the hours that it's supposed to operate. Hours are not being maintained appropriately. Students are not being cleared for testing. A lot of them are disputes over time and attendance records and payments alleged to be owed to the school. The complaints from the students also encompass things such as not having proper equipment, not having the required number of textbooks, not having the required number of instructors, not having an appropriate grading system, not teaching courses that are required to be part of the curriculum, improper supervision on the clinic floor, services being offered by the owner to customers or operating a beauty salon within the school, which is also prohibited by the law. And all the complaints, the violations are detailed in the complaint that you have before you.
Hey. This school has been open for 11 years. Our inspection reports are basically flawless. They've come there, they've looked at it, I've seen the inspection reports, and she has not had any concerns or problems with regards to the inspections, from what I can gather. She's never been before you folks before. This is the first time. She's never been before you. Granted, she may have a few students who are making some complaints, but I think Ms. Dural's testimony will clear up, a lot of these problems. I think a lot of them are as a result of them not wanting to pay, them not wanting to complete the classes, poor attendance and things of that nature. So I think at the end of the day, you'll find that, that she runs a good school. It's a good school, and it should be able to continue operating appropriately and accordingly. Thank you.
I have the Stockstill inspector who's here to the witnesses.
Is he?
Stockstill, Sherry Stockstill inspector.
That's right.
Is this on the
Okay.
record? Is that discussion among them?
Yeah, that's done on the record, whatever they're saying.
It is done on the record?
So,
He's discussing with his client.
Ms. Stockstill, do you understand the rule of sequestration? You need to stand up and you're gonna have to stay outside.
We don't have a problem, and she has no problem. We'd like to add these two as well,
Okay.
if she's going to testify.
All right, so, Ms. Stockstill, will you come stand up over here? And Mr. Landry, identify your two other witnesses.
Karen Smothers
Karen Smothers.
and Cynthia Antoine.
Okay, Ms. Smothers and Ms. Anwar, can y'all come stand up here too? Okay, so y'all have been identified as people who might be witnesses in the case. You heard me discuss the rule of sequestration with the other witnesses, which means you gotta stay outside and you can't talk about your testimony or the case or any facts related thereto until you're released from the rule of sequestration after you've testified or after the case is over. Does that make sense to all three of y'all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if y'all turn around and raise your right hands, the court reporter's gonna swear you in too.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will be giving today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sorry, ladies.
Okay, Ms. Bork is in the room, and and I'm gonna call her as my first witness.
What was her first name?
Donna.
B-O-U-R-Q-U-E.
And on the witness list that I provided, they're in alphabetical order. Fine.
Are we doing 018 and 019?
I'd move to consolidate them. One is the charges, they're identical charges. 018 is against the individual, Ms. Dural, who has a cosmetology license and a cosmetology instructor's license. And 019 is against the school license, unless there's any objection to that.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any objections?
Okay.
Cases will be consolidated for hearing purposes.
Are you a license, do you have a license issued by this board?
Yes, ma'am.
What type of license?
Cosmetology.
Did you attend cosmetology school in the state of Louisiana?
Yes, ma'am.
What school did you attend?
Iberia Cosmetology.
When did you start school at Iberia Cosmetology?
2010.
And when did you finish?
Well, 2013, I quit the school and went get help to pass my practical because I didn't know how to cut hair yet, and I didn't know how to do the practical.
Right. Between 2010 and 2013, about how many hours did you earn?
Well, I pretty much called state board because we were never when we asked for hours, we were never told. So I knew when I had my 1,000 hours because I called state board and they told me. And I asked Miss Nelda but in fact I had quit about 3 times, and my husband made me come back because he was going to divorce me because he had paid all this money. And I went after Miss Nelda to set my written test, and me and another girl went together here and we took our test and we passed.
Okay, so you're talking, when you say written test, you're talking about the national exam or the state exam?
Both.
Okay, so you took both of them on the same day?
Yeah.
Sometime after you earned 1,000 hours, correct? And you passed both of those tests. But you had not at that time completed 1,500 hours. You said you didn't know how many hours you had, so you had to call the state board. Are you saying that the school did not post the hours on a monthly basis at the school?
No.
Okay. And you're sure of that they were not posted anywhere in the school? Did you ever ask a representative of the school how many hours you had?
Yes, and it was always, I'm going to get it for you, I'm going to get it for you. And
Who did you ask?
Miss Nelda,
Okay. And about how many times did you ask Ms. Nelda for an accounting of your hours?
it was a lot because I wanted to see how many hours I had. I can't give you a definite number.
When you were a student at Iberia Cosmetology Institute, what hours were you supposed to attend school?
9 to 4,
And how many days a week?
Tuesday till Saturdays.
So 9 to 4, 5 days a week is what you registered for, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you attend regularly from 9 to 4, 5 days a week?
Well, we would get there like 8:45, and Miss Nelda wouldn't get there sometimes till 10, 10:30, 11. So we stayed in the parking lot waiting for her, and she told us that she would accommodate those hours to add to the hours when we punched in because we were at school.
Okay, so just so I understand what you're saying clearly, school was supposed to start at 9 o'clock, you understood. Is that correct?
Yes.
You need an audible answer. I know that's hard to remember, but I need you to not nod your head, but to say the answer so it can be recorded.
nod my head.
Do not nod your head.
Oh.
Say yes or no. Yes. So that the court reporter can get down what you're saying. All right, so you were supposed to go to school for 9. Did you
Yes.
regularly arrive at the school at or before 9 o'clock?
The beginning, yes, because I was very strong into doing hair, and we would go and we'd wait and wait and wait. And Miss Nelda would come about 10:30. Sometimes she was on time. But we knew she was gonna give us those hours that we waited in the parking lot. And when she would let us off early, she said she would clock us out at 5, at 4, whatever. So,
So I'm understanding you to say that even though you're supposed to report to school at 9 o'clock, you didn't really start school till 10 or 10:30 on many days, is that correct?
many a days, yes.
Okay, and then did you have a lunch break somewhere in there?
We would go in and she'd have us clean up. And when she was there on time, we did have a good class where she did teach us, you know. But when things got late and we were punching in, I mean, the time clock, nobody knew how to fix it. So sometimes we would punch in, the clock would say 7:30 and it was really 11. So like when the time would change, the clocks were never fixed. And when the electricity would go off, the clocks were never fixed. So we were just clocking in, not knowing anything. And we would clock out at 12, 11:30, 12, have a half-hour lunch break, and come back, and then continue.
Okay, and then you said something about we would leave early, but were told we would be punched out at
Yes,
4
she would
o'clock.
clock
Can you
us out.
explain that? What time were you leaving?
3 sometimes, if we went busy, or the weather was bad, or she had something to do.
All right, one of the days you were scheduled to go was Saturday.
Yes.
What hours did the school maintain on Saturdays? Do you
It was
recall?
the same time. Same procedure.
When you say same procedure, do you mean starting late?
Yeah.
After 9 o'clock? You mean finishing?
We had customers at the door waiting for her. Clients.
Right, and how long on a Saturday did you all see clients?
It varied. Some Saturdays we were busy. Some Saturdays we weren't. Or if we went busy, she would let us go and say she would clock us out. Now, we don't know. I mean, we have no proof.
Okay, but your testimony before the board is that when you were enrolled at Iberia Cosmetology School, there were no classes being conducted consistently between 9 and 4 every day, Tuesday through Saturday.
No.
You were a cosmetology student. Do you know if there were any other programs being taught in that school at the same time?
Nail tech, aesthetics. I never did that. The whole cosmetology deal, manicure, nail, whatever, the whole cosmetology consisted of.
So while you were there, you're saying that there were manicuring students, cosmetology students, and aesthetic students.
Yes, the whole works.
How many instructors were at the school?
And just Miss Nelda.
But Ms. Nelda is an instructor, correct?
Yeah,
Right, so
teacher, she was our teacher.
she was teaching, who taught the manicuring class?
We were all in one class.
Who taught aesthetics
We were all in one class.
and cosmetology?
We were all in one class.
Okay, well, as a cosmetologist, you know, you do manicure and aesthetics. Did you learn manicuring?
No,
Did you learn aesthetics?
no.
Did you have to attend lectures on aesthetics?
What do you mean?
Did you attend a class that Ms. Nelda was teaching on how to prepare the skin or perform a facial?
She did. There was a girl, Renata, that was kind of interested, and she did a demonstration, and we all watched her one time, and then she decided it's not what she wanted to do, so she went to nail tech.
On the clinic floor, were there nail techs, estheticians, and cosmetologists all serving clients?
Yes.
Okay. Were the nail tech students, what were they doing?
They were rubbing the clients that were being, like the people that were doing the hair. They were, Renata, I knew, was washing hair. And they were rubbing the hands and massaging them.
So were the nail tech students only doing nail work, or were they doing hairdressing or facials or anything else?
Depending how busy we were, they were washing our rollers and deals, and they did wash the hair and help us out, and folding towels.
Were there certain hours that there were lectures and certain hours that there were clients? How was the course divided? Can you just explain to the board what was a typical day at the school?
Okay, we walked in. Tuesdays was our main day for teaching. Wednesdays, it kind of varied. We had clients coming in and out. Thursdays and Saturdays were mostly clients. I'm trying to think back. It depended on how many clients we had and didn't have, and
Did you ever see Ms. Dural perform services on a client?
oh yeah, she did all the cutting. She didn't let none of us cut. And she did the final. She did, well, Miss Sherry, there was a student, Courtney LeBlanc, that had 1,000 hours, and I know her mom and her grandma were hairdressers. They knew the rope. And Miss Nelda had been to the board, in front of the board, before, and she threatened us, stating that if we would ever call the board again, that we were out. I don't know what happened the first time, but we did Google it, and I don't know, we never did understand it.
Okay, when you just mentioned Miss Sherry, do you know her last name?
Yeah, the inspector.
Sherry Stockstill that was in this room earlier?
Yeah, so Courtney's mama and grandma came to the school and started raising all kind of mess because they knew the ropes, and they wanted Courtney to go take her test, and complained that Miss Nelda wouldn't let the students do the work. So Miss Sherry started coming to the school on Saturdays. I want to say she came about a month and a half. And she would have her hair washed and styled. And that went on, and then Miss Sherry quit coming. And she would ask us questions, but we didn't know what was going on until after Courtney graduated. Then we found out why Miss Sherry was coming, and we were just so amazed that Miss Sherry chose our school to come have her hair done. You know, we were just say would always do it. Because Courtney's mom and them said that they wouldn't, that the students weren't doing the work, that Ms. Nelda was doing all the work.
You're here today because a complaint was filed against Ms. Dural and Iberia Cosmetology Institute. I'm just going to run through some of the allegations against the school and ask you if you have any knowledge or information about these items. One of the allegations is that the school doesn't possess the proper apparatus or equipment for full teaching of the cosmetology curriculum. Do you know whether the school had appropriate equipment for the students to perform services? Were you provided with a kit when you registered in school?
Yeah, but we couldn't have our kid till we went to practical, to do our practical tests.
Okay, so you couldn't do your practical test until you had 1,000 hours.
1,500.
You're right, 1,500 hours. So when did you get your kit in relation to coming for the practical?
Well, okay. July of August of 2013, I called State Board and they told me I had 1,545 hours. And my husband and I weren't getting along because he wanted me out of school and I paid. I hid a lot of money from him not to let him know that the money I was paying. I called State Board, and I think the girl's name was Ashley, and she said, oh yes, she says, you have your 1,500. So I asked Miss Nelda, I said, Miss Nelda, I said, my husband's birthday is December 16th. Can I please go take my practical test and give that to him for our birthday gift? And she said, oh yes, Miss Donna, she said, I'll take care of that for you. And Angela was the same way. Angela had like 2,000, almost 1,500, and she wanted to go take her written. So we'd ask Miss Nelda, I said, they called yet? You got to see him? And she said, yeah. Y'all on the waiting list. So every month we ask. And so, November came, and I said, Miss Nelda, it's getting close. I said, his birthday's next month, and I didn't even go take my practical yet, which I didn't know how to cut hair, so I didn't know how to do anything. So I called State Board to see where I was on the list. And they said, what do you mean, where you're on the list? Oh, no. Miss Nelda gave me a bill for $300 and something, me and Angela bill, and she gave us each a letter stating how many hours we had. And on my letter, it stated that I was shorted 200 and something hours from my 1,500 to go take my practical test. And I knew that wasn't true because I had talked to Ashley in July, I think. And at the time, I had 1,545 hours. So right there, like I blew up. I said, okay, something's not adding. If I did not have the 1,500 hours at the time of June, July, she would have told me, you do not have your hours to go take your practical, okay? So when she gave me that deal stating that I needed 200 more hours, I left. And I went and called State Board. And I asked them, I said, what is going on? Where am I on the list? Now I'm finding out I owe y'all 200 hours. So Ashley said, well, no, Ms. Don. She said, you have your hours. And well, anyway, I told Angela, I said, Angela, we're not in the way. So Angela called me. And Angela was,
last name?
pardon me?
Do you know Angela's last name?
Bodan. And she said, they told Angela she was not on the list either to go take her test. So Angela might get a lawyer or do something, whatever. So we called Mrs. Steve And he said, I'm gonna get y'all a date. Y'all go learn how to cut hair. So we got this girl to show us how to cut hair. It took us, we had 2 months to do it. And they set us a date. And Angela had to take the written and the practical the same day because she was through. And I just had to take my practical. Well, anyway, we flunked the practical, but we had to go back the second time, which I passed, and she went back the second time, she passed. So we got our license. We weren't coming today because we got what we wanted, but they said that wasn't fair to the others that were struggling to get their out, you know.
Okay, just to recap what you just said, it's my understanding that you were not registered to take the exam by the school.
Right, we called state board ourselves, and when we found out that we were never registered to take our tests, Mr. Steve said, oh, I will get y'all in. We'll make the date right now. So I said, well, wait a minute, we don't know how to cut hair, we can't pass the practical test. And he said, well, y'all go out there and learn. So we hired somebody to teach us, and they did as much as they could for us, and it took us 2 times to go back to the practical.
Okay, so the person that you hired to teach you was outside of the school.
Right.
That was just somebody that's a cosmetologist.
She was one of the students that had graduated, Courtney, that had graduated from Iberia Cosmetology, which she attended.
Okay.
And her mom and her grandma helped us too.
Okay. We were talking about your kit. When did you receive a kit from Iberia Cosmetology?
When I was getting ready to go take my practical, I went to the school and Miss Nelda gave me my kit. And she made me sign some papers stating that, but the others never went get theirs because they didn't want to go back to the school. If they went, I don't know.
What was in the kit that you were given by the school?
Oh. First of all, it was a bag. The zipper was broken. Scissors, rollers, combs. Oh, I don't remember.
Did you have that equipment while you were earning your 1,500 hours? Did you?
No, we could not touch our kids.
Did you?
Oh, cholesterol with cholesterol. We had the brush to do the, you know, for the practical. And we had our clips, rollers, whatever was needed for the practical.
But you didn't have that equipment to practice on while you were
No.
earning your 1,500 hours, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
It was all still in cases and boxes and,
Were you given a book when you enrolled?
yes, I was given a book. I went for cosmetology, and everything went fine the first year, but I just wasn't learning anything. I had paid out my cosmetology fee, whatever the owed for the school. And I was trying to get out of school fast because I didn't know anything, so I changed to nail tech. And Ms. Nelda said, okay, you want to be a nail tech? We were in the break room. She said, that's going to cost you another $2,900. So the next day I brought her the money, $2,900. But I was kind of like, well, I just paid you like all this money for my cosmetology, and then so say my hours were dropped. I don't know, what was that? So Miss Sherry came in and I told Miss Sherry, well, that's when Miss Sherry was coming in.
That's with Sherry Stocksville.
Yeah. And I told Miss Sherry, I said, Miss Sherry, I said, look, because our plan was to get a shop and rent out chairs. And Miss Sherry said, you can't do that because you have to have a cosmetology to rent out chairs and you can't cut hair. So I went back to Miss Nelda. I said, Miss Nelda, I said, okay, I want to go back to cosmetology. And I think that was 2 weeks later. And she said, all right. But in the meantime, she had given my book to somebody else. So I asked her about having my book back. She said, oh, you don't need it. And then I went back to cosmetology and she told me the paperwork was never sent off, so that was not a problem.
Did you refund the $2,900 that you paid for the nail tech course?
I didn't ask and she didn't offer because I didn't want to get her mad at me.
Okay, but when you earned the 1,500 hours, you were handed a bill for $300. Did you ever pay that $300?
No. Because I knew I had my $1,500 because I had talked to Ashley.
Did you pay more than the contract price for the $1,500?
Yes,
For the
she-
1,500 hours?
She did have on her paperwork when we registered that I did not go to school every day, because once I lost my interest in 2012, I wasn't learning anything. There was on the application that if you did not graduate, I think it was either 12 or 15 months, you will be charged $4 an hour. So I didn't question the payments because that was the deal. And I knew I did play around in school. When I couldn't learn anything, yeah.
Do you know about how much you paid for the cosmetology course, including that?
When I went at the time, it was like 6,000, 7,000. I don't remember. That was 2010.
Okay, your contract was for $7,000. Do you think you paid more than $7,000?
Oh, I'm sure I did. But like the 2,900 and I don't know how that works.
Do you think you paid more than $10,000?
Probably so.
Another allegation is that the school doesn't have an appropriate grading system or require the passage of examinations for issues of diplomas. Can you tell the board what type of grading system or testing system was employed at school?
Okay, we'd go over a chapter and she had the tests for that chapter. And we'd go over it, like she had the question A, B, C, D. And we would take it and we would write it on index boards. And that was for us to study. And she would pick the test back up and we'd go home and study and come back and take that same test. And
Okay, let me stop you for a second. When you wrote on the index cards, what were you writing on the index card?
the tests,
The test questions?
yeah,
Okay. And the test answers?
yes.
Okay. Was there a lecture on the subject matter, or did you just sit in a classroom and copy?
Well, we did go over some. There, like I said, we had good and bad days, depending, But if you didn't study, you didn't learn. I studied. I bought apps. If you go to the apps, there's a State Board Cosmetology test apps, which I bought 3 of them, which that probably 1,000 questions per app. Well, 800 to 1,000, which I studied from too.
There's an app to prepare for the national exam.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to?
All the tests, all the testing.
Okay. When you all were working on the clinic floor, was there constant supervision of the students who were performing services?
The student, well, Miss Nelda would come show us how to do it. And she would say, I'm gonna show y'all one time, and this is it, and she would put her work on a stick. And from there, the students would try to figure it out. I mean, it wasn't like her being there the whole time. And she'd go to her office, whatever, and do some work and come check on us. And if we had questions, we'd go ask them.
When you say she put her work on a stick, you're talking about on a mannequin head that she
Like,
showed?
one that she did, like, how can you say that, when you,
She would do this on a mannequin?
Yeah.
I suppose. And she would do a
demo,
demonstration on a
yeah,
mannequin.
yeah, okay,
And then
We
leave it
would
for the
work.
class to analyze.
yeah. I couldn't think of the word.
I'll give you an A. One of the allegations is that the equipment used wasn't properly sterilized, sanitized, or disposed of if it was disposable equipment. Do you have any information regarding sterilization procedures of equipment used on the clinic floor?
Well, I never did use scissors, so I don't know how that was done. I never,
Did you have a pair of scissors in your kit?
I did, but it was in my little case, my little suitcase.
Okay, so those are the scissors you used for the practical exam?
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you about sterilizing or sanitizing.
Well,
equipment.
I did one pedicure on a client, and she claimed I was too rough on her. And another person came and took over, and that was the only pedicure I did. I never did manicures, pedicures. I didn't like do nails.
Did you ever have to, how were the brushes handled?
We washed them in a sink, in the rollers, and sprayed them with alcohol.
Did you all have necessary and appropriate equipment to do hair color?
I never did hair color. I never fooled with the colors. Miss Nelda always did mix it for us and would hand it to us. I don't even know how to mix colors. I couldn't even tell you.
What about other chemical services?
She did let us do the rinse when someone came in for a rinse. When we shampoo, we'd do a rinse and put them underneath the dryer. She pretty much had all that for us.
Do you have a job working as a cosmetologist?
Nobody wants me. They're afraid of me. In fact, last week I'm supposed to go to an instructor in Youngsville. I was supposed to start last week going to her on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And I'm gonna pay her. And because of this going on, I didn't go last week because I was surprised about the letter I got and I couldn't think. But I will start with her next week.
Is there any other information that we didn't discuss that you'd like to tell the board about your experience at Iberia Cosmetology Institute?
Nightmare.
Have nothing further, I'll tend to the witness.
Board, how you doing? My name is Scott. Let me ask you, you said earlier on in your testimony that you quit 3 times. When was that?
I wouldn't come to school like 2-3 days. I never really told her I quit. I told my husband and he would say, you're going to finish.
And why would you quit?
Because I didn't know how to do that.
Did you keep records of when you quit?
No, sir.
So 2 or 3 days here and there, you're saying that you were just not show?
Yeah, you're right. Depending, it got more like that towards 2012, the end of 2012. I want to say November is when I started, just not going.
How many hours on the average a month do you expect to be in school?
We were supposed to be at school from 9 to 4, but she never really pushed it. I mean, she didn't.
But I'm saying, how many hours a month did you go to school? I mean, it would be 120 hours a month, I guess.
I really did not keep track. I didn't even know how many hours I had unless I called the board.
So you kept track of none of this information?
No.
You kept track of no days on a calendar, whatever the case may be, when you said occasionally?
I trusted her.
I understand. I just want to make sure that's clear. Is that, you said there were some days when you'd show up at 8:45 and she wasn't there.
Right.
You also testified that, yes, that wasn't every day, but there were some days. These particular days, you're not in a position to tell me today what days there were, how many days there were, on things more specific than what you said.
No, sir, I did not keep track.
Okay. Now, there were some weeks, some months, apparently, when you'd only go 20 hours for the month. Would that be fair? That's what your records?
I don't remember, sir.
But there were a lot of months, there were some months when you didn't spend much time.
I want to say towards the end of 2012 in November, I slowed down.
Well, if your records seem to reflect that the only time you spent 120 hours in a particular month there was in September 2010, which was the first one. I assume that you had a lot of energy and you were getting into what it was you were doing. Then after that, you stayed in school effectively for 3 years.
Yeah, that's because I didn't go every day.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. I'm not.
I lost interest.
Yeah, and I understand that. A lot of people go to school. I've got a kid, they go to school and lose interest. I understand that. But you lost interest, and you would go down, if your records reflect that you went down as low as 20 hours some months in 2011, you have nothing to dispute that. Correct?
2010, 2011, I was pretty strong. Until
Well-
it came to 2012.
Would you disagree with me if I were to tell you in 2011, you started off in January with 69 hours for the month, went down to 62, up to 87, and down to 65, 60, 53, 37, 50, 45, 20, 25, 25. So at the end of 11.
That's why I stayed in school so long.
Because you were not going full time.
Right.
And then in 2012, we're showing, excuse me. Same thing, 10, 30, 20, 35, 20. That was not uncommon in a month for you only to give them that many hours. Correct?
I really don't recall.
Okay, all right.
I really don't. I
Well,
didn't
we're gonna
keep
put the
track.
records in there. I just didn't know
Yeah.
if you had any different recollection.
Oh, no, I didn't keep track of my hours.
Okay, all right. And so you have no reason to dispute the actual school
Oh,
records
no.
that you-
Oh, no, I did that to myself.
Okay. I know that there was one month in particular, it seems like in 2013, no, 2012, where you went no hours. That would-
Could have been, I don't know.
All right, okay.
That's why it took so long.
But
I'm not complaining about my hours, or I'm not complaining, like I did tell Miss Sherry. I played around, because I lost interest.
okay.
And if it wouldn't have been for my husband, I would have quit. But he would not let me.
So I understand you didn't reach the $1,500 until October of 2013, when you actually started school in January No, in September of 2010.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. When you would take time off like that, did it require that you had to catch up, that you would fall behind the class, or you would fall behind and had to learn? Like, you know,
You
try to-
weren't learning anything.
You weren't learning anything. If you're not there, you're not learning anything.
Well, there's other students that were there every day and have the same complaint as me. There's just, didn't learn that.
Do you have any days when your interest, you were showing up late? You showed up
Well,
late?
we never knew what time to be there, because one time I was in the parking lot by myself, it was like 8:45, I was studying for a test. And this homeless guy came to me and started banging on my window, and I was the only one there. I was waiting for Miss Nelda. And I just happened to go into my mom's, have coffee with her. And I said, well, let me go to school, and I'm gonna go early. And this homeless guy came and started banging on my window and asking for money and everything, and it really scared me. And I went and I told it to Miss Nelda, I'm not coming back, till 10. And all the students didn't get there till 9, started coming about 9:30, 10, because they knew Miss Nelda wouldn't be there at 9. And if I was the only car in the parking lot after that incident with that guy, I would not go.
You study at home?
Yes, sir.
No.
I had apps, everything. Study guides, I had index cards.
Now, I understand you explained to Ms. Morris here that there were lectures some days, generally Tuesdays and Wednesdays,
Yes.
and then Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays was hands-on observations or participation with clients.
Well, not us, Miss Nelda, pretty much. Well, I did roller sets. I did a roller set in flat iron. That's the most I ever did on the floor. I never used any.
I like to show.
Oh, I believe it. That's why I was in school so long.
Well, I just wanted
I
to show
have-
you the hours.
Oh, I understand. I'm not complaining about my hours or me being in school this long, because I told Miss Sherry myself, I played around because I had no interest.
Well, I'm, for the board's sake, I'm gonna want to offer, file, and introduce a copy of the record of hours. That would be. I'll have to get a copy. That would be D2.
And my objection is going to be, it doesn't appear to be the hours that were filed with the board is an unsigned copy of handwritten hours for just the student. I'm sure that the official records show what was reported to the board, and I don't know whether that's the same or not. However, I know Ms. Wort's testimony, I think, is the same number of hours.
Yes.
Yes.
What? Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll do is, I don't believe this was. I'll let Mrs. Dural describe it. Okay. If you were to go 120 hours a month, how long would it take you to complete the course when you go?
Probably about 12 months. I'm assuming, this has been so long ago.
Now, like you said, you indicated something about Nelda having come before the state board. We're not familiar with that. Could you explain a little more what you meant by that?
Well, when we came to state board to complain, I don't know, one of the students Googled Nelda Dural versus, it's not an app, it's just like you just go to Google, and if you type in Nelda Dural versus State Board Cosmetology, they're showing that there was a case and she appealed it, and I don't know what it was about. I wasn't in school at the time.
Okay.
I knew nothing about it.
So you don't have anything that reflects that she was brought before this board?
Just on the, yeah, well, she told us, yeah.
That's the first one.
But that was a lawsuit. Yeah. All right.
Okay, I have a question.
I don't know how formal or informal these proceedings are. It's administrative.
Okay, you're asking me about my hours. Okay, there was one girl that only came on Saturdays. And she was able, just on Saturdays she came, and she was able to get her license and her practical test all before us, just coming on Saturdays.
What do you know about that? Who was it?
Sandra, I don't know her last name. So it's not like we had to be there 9 to 4.
I'm not real sure. That's supposed to be within me. I don't know who that is. Let's talk a little bit about the kit. You had the kit, but the kit was at school.
Yes,
It was kept at school.
yes, sir.
Where you had a locker.
Yes, sir.
You kept it in your locker.
No, Miss Nelda had it all on the floor in the practical room.
She had the kits.
Yes.
Everybody's kits were
Yes.
there. Now, you know, albeit you may not have had the kit of that with you for use every day, you had access to the necessary devices and apparatus to do your work during the day when you were in school.
Yes.
You've taken your national boards?
My written? Yes.
You passed?
Yes.
Is there any equipment at all that you can tell me today that was not available to you while you were at school?
I did have a problem when I did get my kid.
Before, with that, let me scratch it.
Oh.
Not the kid. I'm talking about, I know you said the zipper, I think was broken on the kid. If I recall. I'm talking about when you go to school and you were at school teaching, learning, and you said you had access to the necessary equipment apparatus at school.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that was not there that you did not have available to you?
It was there.
It was all there.
Yes, sir.
And you said something about you did not get a refund. You got into nails or manicure. You switched to manicuring.
Yes.
Okay. And you paid for that?
Yes, sir, $2,900.
You didn't like it, or you just didn't?
No, Miss Sherry told me that I could not rent chairs or cut hair That was our plan. Me and my husband was gonna build a shop and rent chairs out. And when Miss Sherry was coming to do her hair, and I was telling it to Miss Sherry, because Miss Sherry would question us, how y'all doing, how's school and all that. And I told her, I said, Miss Sherry, I said, I went to nail tech, and she said, baby, you can't do that. And she explained to me, she said, you can't rent chairs or cut hair if you're gonna do that. And that's when Miss Sherry left, I told Miss Nelda, I said, well, I wanna go back to cosmetology. She says, well, that's okay, because I hadn't sent you paperwork in yet.
So you started on nail tech and then you went back to cosmetology.
Yeah, I had finished everything,
You finished everything.
but I had not taken my test. I was
How
all
much did you do
paid.
with nail tech?
That didn't even go 2 weeks. I didn't even learn how, there was nobody to teach us.
And you paid for that, for that course?
Yes.
Did you ask for a refund?
No, sir, I did not,
Okay.
because I didn't know how the system worked, and I didn't want to get her mad at me, and I said, I'll forget about it.
Okay. You said you testified earlier, you used the phrase that you played around in school. What do you mean?
I wasn't coming.
When you go to school, you play around over there?
Oh, no, we hadn't, no.
She was strict?
I pretty much, I was in the practical, in the back by myself, and just staring at the walls because I didn't know what I was doing. And this little girl came from a technical school, and she started like teaching me how to do certain things, because she was good at it. But you could tell she would get aggravated when I'd ask her. She'd have to stop doing what she was doing to come help me. And I'd leave and I'd not come, just wouldn't come back. I said, well, this is a waste of time.
She was a student?
Yes.
The students would help her with different things?
There was just one girl when I was trying to learn the practice. I had no one to teach me because they were either on the floor or she was in the classroom with the students. And I had already passed my written, so I was by myself.
Ms. Morris had asked you earlier about sanitizing and disposal of this, and you said you had no issues one way or the other with that?
I never did scissors, I never did
You had your,
pedicures, I never did anything but roller sets and flat irons.
the facility was clean?
Yes, we cleaned it, windows, everything, mopped,
You cleaned the brushes?
yes,
Had a
sir,
procedure for that?
yes, sir.
You disposed of things that needed to be disposed of under the rules? If you used something that needed to be disposed
Oh,
of?
yeah, the students would do that if they were waxing or,
So the facility was clean, things were disposed of, they were waxing, or whatever the case may be, things were taken.
well, I never did any of that, but I did see the students doing a few things, yeah,
You had no problem with the cleanliness and the hygiene in the facility? You were graded on cutting?
I never cut,
Okay.
never,
You didn't receive any grades? You would communicate with Ms. Nelda via text, we text each other. Text message. You'd send her a text on the phone.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. Okay.
You did communicate with them via text message.
Oh, yeah, we called each other. Yeah, we were friends in school.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any of you board members have any questions?
I have a question. When you paid for your full cosmetology hours, did you get a receipt for that?
Yes and no.
What you mean by that, Vincent?
Sometimes she gave us some, sometimes she didn't.
Do you have any receipts?
I threw everything away
Okay.
when I,
Second question. When you said you didn't get a kid before 1,500 hours, what were you using at all this time that you were in there? When
her
you
equipment.
heard that there was equipment available for y'all to use?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So you're saying the entire time you were in school, you never did a haircut?
Never did, no ma'am.
You didn't cut a manicure? Did you get a manicure?
I did on the, November. She gave me some scissors and she showed me. I did 1 month. And then that's when I got the bill. And, stating that I needed 200 more hours, which I knew I had my 1,500 hours. So I left school not knowing how to cut. And I went have somebody teach me.
Were there scissors available on the clinic floor for students to use?
There were, but we never used them because we never cut hair. Miss Nelda did all the cutting.
Okay, thank you.
Did you ever get a report card? Like every month?
What about a progress report?
Ma'am,
Were your hours posted every month?
no ma'am.
I have one more question. Why did you wait so late to come before the board now with this issue that since 2010 and 11 that you were facing?
Well, first of all, we were told that if we would call state board for any reason, that she had been to the board before, and she won the case, and something like that. She scared us. And if you were to call the board with anything, that we would be thrown out. So I knew I didn't have my 1,500 till August, September, whatever it was, when I had called. And I wanted to go do my practical, and I had called state board, and they told me I had my 1,500 hours. And when I got that bill in November stating that I owed 300 and something, and I still had 2 more 100 hours to go, I knew right there that was a lie, and I said, okay, I have enough. You know, she's playing with me. And that's when I called y'all, and then that's when they told us the rules. We didn't know, we had no sense of direction, you know? We had never called the board. And then we never went back to school. We went get help, Mr. Steve helped us, got us a date, and
So did you ever sit in a theory class?
yes, ma'am.
How was the theory class? Who was your teacher?
Miss Nelda.
And what was it about? Could you kind of,
The textbooks, and we would watch videos.
so y'all all had textbooks,
Yes,
and those were hers?
yes,
Okay,
unless we paid for them, and I don't know.
okay,
We had them.
thank you.
I have a question. We've made reference several times to some case. Would someone like to explain it to me? what this case is, since we're all talking about it.
Maybe you can ask when we have a witness on the stand that knows about it. This witness, I think, said.
That's right, but, you know,
It's not a case before this board.
It's correct. It's not relevant to this proceeding.
I think you got a board member who's just expressing an interest in finding it now, so one of y'all might, in your wisdom, decide it's something y'all might want to tell him through the witness or not. Have a board member who's expressing it.
really, really.
I know.
I mean, we're talking about
Any
it.
objection?
Y'all were talking about it.
Talk about it.
Well, no, the only reason I was asking her about it, because she gave the impression that she was brought before the board. And so I wanted to know whether
Oh,
she.
not me, Miss Nelda was.
No, I know that's what, she gave the impression that Nelda was brought before the board prior to this time. And basically, I knew that was not true. I wanted to know what she was talking about. Now, Ms. Morris was showing me there was a lawsuit between Ms. Nelda and the board back in
It was 2008.
2008. There was a dispute, over what, felt that she had been treated unfairly
By the board?
by the cosmetology.
It was a suit against the board members. The executive director at that time is Jackie Burnett. Most of these board members were not on the board. However, Ms. Robichaux and Ms. Hand may have been.
I don't remember.
And it also against the test team. Well, Jill Wagoner, who was on the board at that time. Nelda Badon, Melanie Broussard, and the exam team were the defendants. The suit was filed in the 19th Judicial District Court. It was dismissed on an exception, so there was no trial of the matter. And then there was an appeal filed at the First Circuit, and the First Circuit affirmed the decision of the trial court dismissing the suit on an exception of no cause of action, and Ms. Dural did not further appeal it at that time. I think after that, she and I had a discussion. She said she wasn't going to discuss it.
Well, it went away.
Mr.
Ultimately,
Nixon, the
it was
attorney.
this, who was your lawyer?
Joanne Nixon.
It was dismissed and not pursued, I guess, in 2000.
Was decided by the Court of Appeal December 23rd, 2008.
So the case was, the suit was probably filed in 7 or 6 or something like that. But yeah,
That answers your question? No.
It actually arose out of an inspection that was
That's-
conducted on December 3rd, 2005.
That's what I want to know. What was the cause? Rose out of an inspection? So, obviously there was a dispute over the inspection. Is that what it was?
No, I thought it was a test team.
It's a test team.
you want to explain?
Yes, I'll
I can
explain
read
it.
the facts from here.
That's not correct.
You can read the facts.
Well, but let me just tell you something, Mr. Weber, I don't think you're gonna get anybody to agree, because some are not,
You've
or
got two
all
lawyers
have
in the room.
first-hand knowledge.
Exactly.
But I think what you need,
That's
provided.
Well, I mean, we talked about it. I just want to know how this
It's
how
not
this relates
relevant.
to.
It's not
It
relevant
doesn't.
to this.
It doesn't
It
relate
doesn't
to
relate
this.
to
It
this
has no
law.
relevance to this matter.
you're just gonna get in
Stop talking
another
about it.
argument about who was.
Right.
I'm not looking to get an argument since it keeps coming up, and I
But most
assume
of
somebody
those-
else will bring it up. I just want to know
No, I
what's
don't
going
think
on.
it's going to come up, well, unless Nate says
That's
something
just
about it.
kids at school talking.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
only,
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
only reason for asking her was actually, I thought that that's what she was talking about, but I just wanted to make certain that she didn't have any additional information I wasn't aware of. And when she confirmed that, I'm okay. I have no desire. I think we all agree that's what it was. I think Sherry. knows.
Most of these employees that were defended in the suit and board members are no longer associated with the board.
All right.
And so, yeah, so it really, I'm not gonna ask about it again. Somebody may say something about it, but as long as everybody understands it was this and had nothing to do with the prior proceeding before you.
Okay. I'm good.
Any more board members?
No questions?
Yeah,
You want to read?
I do just have a few questions on redirect. Ms. Bork, you were asked about your attendance. How was attendance recorded at the school?
I have no idea.
they did for their sign-in sheets.
Thank you.
Signed in at the beginning of class, or how did you, what was on?
Well,
sign-in
sometimes there was no papers for us to sign, and no ink pens, and some days we signed in, some days we didn't, and then she posted a note that every student must sign in. And then she put it, when we had our hours all done, we weren't clocking in because we knew we were gonna get charged $4 an hour, then she put up a sign, every student must clock in.
So there was a time clock.
Yeah,
Earlier you had stated that the time clock didn't have the accurate time.
no,
Okay. So were you able to verify your hours from any records at the school? Okay. So when you say you don't dispute the hours, the 1,500 hours that was reported to the board, do you have documentation from Iberia school that supports the dates and times that you attended school?
I really don't know whatever became of it. I think they have all our records over here.
Right, but were there any records that were reviewed by the students that would indicate to the students how many hours I have today when I leave the school? Was there a book?
There was a time card.
But you just stated the time clock was not the correct time, so how
Right,
would that
and we
help?
never paid attention. I never did. I don't know if the others did.
Okay. Wasn't there a bulletin board or something where she would post saying that Donna Bork has 100 hours?
No.
I have nothing further.
Question. So, I have one question. You saying you went to school and you never documented any time that you were there on your own?
No, ma'am.
The date, the time, nothing?
No, ma'am.
And no receipt of what you paid
No,
for
ma'am.
yourself? You didn't do it for your
Because I get a
own
lot from my husband.
benefit? Thank you.
Well, I still think you don't want her to talk about her to her testimony.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or prosecution for the day.
I don't need it back. You know, you can excuse it for the day as long as, yeah, she's still out there to be under the rules.
Correct. While the proceedings.
Ms. Bork, what the lawyers are saying is you can go home.
Oh, okay.
You're not waiting for somebody else, but you're still under the rule of sequestration as long as the case is going on. So you're still not allowed to discuss what you were asked today or what your testimony was or any facts with anybody, except either of those lawyers that the case would arise.
Do we come back tomorrow?
No,
Or we
you're
finished?
gone. You're
God, I hope
finished.
You didn't want to be first, but there was some benefit to be first.
That's it?
You can go. We have Dina Ortego is next.
And Ellen, I think it's spelled D-A-E-N-A. Dina, D-A-E-N-A. Artigo is A-R-T-E-G-O. Is your name D-A-E-N-A?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Did remind you of courthouse, right?
I'm sorry? Ms. Ortega, were you at one time a cosmetology student?
Yes.
Are you still a student? No. Where did you go to cosmetology school?
Iberia Cosmetology Institute in Iberia.
Okay, when did you start?
The exact date on the paper. I think it was October 21st, 2012. 2012.
I'm going to show you an exhibit that's been marked as Board Exhibit 6A. Is this a registration or enrollment application that you completed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it says that you're authorized to begin training on November 27th, 2012.
That's what it says, but I actually started in October.
Okay. You know that you started before November?
Yes, ma'am.
2012. Did you sign an agreement with the school as to how much tuition and how many hours you would go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 6B. Is that probably the contract that you signed with the school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this contract indicates that you're going to be a full-time student in cosmetology to complete 1,500 hours, attending 30 hours per week.
Yes, ma'am.
It also indicates that you're going to pay $8,975.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you attend 30 hours per week beginning in October of 2012?
I was there at least 30 hours, probably closer to 40 hours every week.
Okay. Were there occasions that you had to miss class?
Very rarely. If I had a doctor's appointment, I would schedule it on a day that I was already off. I went there when I was sick, so I tried to get 40 hours a week as often as possible.
What time were you supposed to report to school?
We were supposed to report at 9 a.m.,
Okay. Did class start at 9 a.m.?
usually not.
When did it usually start?
Usually between 9:30 and 10,
Okay. And that was why?
because the instructor was not there.
Who was your instructor?
Miss Nelda Dural?
How many other instructors were there at the school?
None.
So when would you typically arrive at school?
I would try to get there for 9, but usually I would be the first person in the parking lot.
And then what time would you start class?
Immediately when the doors are open, so it depended on when the instructor showed up. So it varied from day to day.
When you're saying instructor, you're referring to Mr. Rao?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you kind of tell us, what was a typical day at the school? Was there a lecture scheduled, or how did your day go once you got there?
For 3 or 4 days out of the week, there would often be clients waiting at the door when the instructor arrived. So we would seldom have any classroom time, and we would be working on clients until the doors closed. Usually without a lunch break or any other breaks. So if they were there, if the doors opened at 9:30, it was pretty much clients until the doors closed.
Okay, about what time did the doors typically close?
I think the official hours were 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but at least 2 to 3 times a week, we would be staying after hours. Sometimes I was there till 5:30, 6 o'clock. It varied, but it was often that we stayed late. I would say at least twice a week, every week.
Okay. How many hours of training did you complete before you handled your first client?
I was putting relaxers on clients within 2 weeks of starting.
How much of your time was spent studying like the textbook?
Maybe 15%. Weeks would go by when we wouldn't even go in the classroom.
Did you have a textbook?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also have a kit?
Yes, ma'am. I paid, I think $900 for the kit.
When were you presented with a kit?
I would say within a few weeks of starting.
Were the student hours posted at a conspicuous place within the school?
The student hours were never posted.
You sent a letter to the board. I'll show you what the marked as Exhibit 6E. Is that a letter that you sent to the board? It's got the name on the bottom.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you are asking the board, I'm writing to request an audience of 15 minutes at the next board meeting. I wish to discuss the matter of my attendance records from Iberia Cosmetology Institute, as I feel strongly that there is a huge discrepancy between the hours reported by the school and the hours I attended. I was enrolled from October of 2011 to November of 2012, and I feel like I've reached 1,500 hours necessary to take my exam. What precipitated this complaint?
The entire time that I was there, we were never given any record of our hours. If we asked about our hours, we were just blown off and ignored. So we had no idea how many hours were being reported and if those were accurate. I was trying to get 40 hours a week, and I tried to get as close to 40 hours a week as I could. After I had been there almost a full year in October, I was finally given a record of my hours. I was anticipating that I was probably close to 1,500, if not over 1,500, knowing that that record would not have the October hours on it. She had me down for 900 hours, and that was impossible. I was absolutely shocked and floored and did not understand where my hours had gone, because I knew that I had worked. To put it mildly, I worked my butt off to get the hours. And I knew that in November my contract would be up and that I would have to start paying by the hour. I emptied my savings account and I cashed in 2 life insurance policies to pay my tuition without going into debt. And there was no way on earth I could afford to pay by the hour. So I did everything in my power to make sure that I would get those 1,500 hours in the year that I was allotted. And so I felt like I had no recourse at all, because I couldn't transfer. I could not, no schools within 100 miles of me would even accept transfers. And so I was desperate. I didn't know what to do. So that's when I contacted State Board.
Have you been back to the school since then?
I went in February to get a copy of my contract and to pick up the kit that I had paid for. I was not given a copy of my contract when I signed it originally.
You said you went to pick up the kit. That kit was being stored at the school? or-
Yes, we were not allowed to take it.
Okay. Were you allowed to use it while you were at the school?
We could use items out of it, but mostly we used communal items.
Have you taken the licensing exam yet?
I've taken the written exam and passed it.
Have you taken the practical exam?
No, ma'am,
Why not?
because I barely have over 1,000 hours on record.
Have you discussed with Ms. Dural the possibility of completing those hours?
I have not.
And why is that?
I was advised by Mr. Steve Young not to go back to the school. The amount of manipulation and emotional abuse necessitated myself and Ms. Angela Baudouin to file a police report against her because we felt threatened. So I can't go back to that school. There's no way I could physically go back to it.
You know that you're here today as one of a number of complainants against the Iberia Cosmetology School, and I'm just going to go through some of the complaints against the school and ask if you have any information. One of the allegations is that the school fails to have the proper apparatus and equipment for teaching the full curriculum. Do you have any information on that?
Yes, ma'am.
What information do you have?
Any specific information that you would require?
What apparatus or equipment do you think is not available for teaching the curriculum?
As far as equipment or supplies?
Yes, either.
We would often run out of supplies. We would often run out of gloves or shower caps. We would be asked to reuse them on different clients. We would often be asked to reuse hair color on multiple clients. As an example, if we had a bottle of color, we would pour it into a mixing bowl, apply it with a tint brush. If there was anything left in the bowl, it would get poured back into the bottle to be used on the next client. There was an inadequate number of sinks. So if you had multiple clients who needed their hair washed at the same time, it made it very difficult. We often just ran out of things.
What did you all do if you ran out of something and there was a client there for service?
It was something like gloves or a cap. We would wash them and reuse them. That's what we were instructed to do.
So your testimony is that disposable equipment was not disposed of after use?
Not always, yes, ma'am.
Are there any, other than the hair color, are there any other products that you lack to perform service?
We had minor issues where we would run out of things like clips or roller clips or rollers. It just seemed like we often wouldn't have everything that we would need.
Can you tell the board what types of services you performed on the clinic floor?
I did roller sets, blowouts, relaxers, hair color. I did one highlight. I think that's about it.
Did you ever cut hair?
Maybe once.
Did you do manicure?
I didn't do manicure, but I did do pedicures.
How about any aesthetics work?
When I started, we had an aesthetic student who was about to finish, so she asked me to take over the aesthetic stuff. So I might have done maybe one or two facials or back facials, and then by that time we had a new aesthetic student who took that over.
Do you believe that if you were given an opportunity to take the practical exam, you could pass it?
I think if I was given a month or two to get my times down, I think that I could.
Did you receive any instruction outside of Iberia Cosmetology Institute?
No, not at all.
You previously stated that Ms. Nelda Dural was your instructor. Were there any other instructors on the premises when you were there? Did you attend lectures and receive instruction from your book?
We would have some lectures, we would have some lessons from our books. Most of the time when we had theory work, it was copying down vocabulary or watching a DVD.
On the days that Ms. Dural arrived late, if she was supposed to be there at 9 and she came in at 10, what did you understand would happen to that 9 to 10 o'clock hour? Would you get credit for that hour?
We would often be told that the hour would be taken care of. What that meant, I'm not sure. And because we didn't have any record of our hours from month to month, there was no way of telling what was happening.
Were all the students performing services on the clinic floor supervised?
No, not always.
What do you mean by not always?
Well, we had one instructor, and so if the instructor was not in the room, we would still perform the services. We had a manicure room and a pedicure room, and then the aesthetics room. So those students would always be unsupervised.
Were there any times that services were being performed and there was no instructor on premises?
Yes, often.
Do you recall for what length of time that would occur, or when, what type of incident?
One incident that happened with me personally that I remember distinctly is we had a client come in who wanted a hair color and foil highlight and a haircut, and I was asked to do that entire service. I had never done a foil highlight before, not even on a mannequin, and Ms. Dural was in the front office doing paperwork the entire time while I struggled to do that client. But that was not unusual.
What the scenario you're describing, Ms. Dural, was in fact on the premises?
She was on the premises, but in an entirely separate room with the door shut.
Were there any days that you were present at school that she was not on the premises, that she?
You know, on the physical property?
Yes.
Not that I can recall.
Did she ever leave to do errands?
No. Usually if she had to run errands, we would all have to leave the premises.
Did that happen often between 9 and 4 o'clock?
Not often, but it happened more than a handful of times.
Is there any other information anything else that you observed at the school that you would like to share with the board?
I think it's important to, excuse me, I think it's important for me to say that we were all terrified the entire time we were there. We weren't allowed to talk to each other at all. So none of the students would be able to corroborate any kind of information about what was happening with the hours. We never, if you would ask someone, well, when are you going to graduate? When are you going to finish? No one ever knew because we had no record of our hours. The atmosphere there was oppressive. We were absolutely terrified to do anything wrong because we knew that if one person did something wrong, we would all be punished for it. Usually made to write lines or essays. And you're talking about people who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s being made to write lines. It was just extremely depressing and demoralizing. When I started, I was excited, I was eager to learn, and by the time I was ready to get out, my attitude had completely shifted because of the atmosphere in the school.
Did you, were you ever present at school when the board's inspector came to inspect the premises?
I think in the entire time I was there, which was 13 months, well, 13 and a half months, I saw the inspector maybe twice.
Did you speak with the inspector?
No.
I have nothing further. I attended a witness.
These are, do you recognize these as your time cards?
Mm-hmm.
That's your signature at the top?
Mm-hmm.
So Ms. Dural has these in her possession. These would have been time cards that you used in checking in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have no personal records of any particular days when you got there. You said most of the time 9 a.m. would be the first person to park the lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any particular specific records with regards to what day of the week or days that this would occur?
No, sir, I don't, because I was under the impression that it wasn't the obligation of the students to track their own hours.
That's not bad. The question is you don't have any records.
No.
Okay. Now, you said some days you'd often work to 5:30, or 6 o'clock. Can you tell me if that was a day that possibly were those times when maybe you would come on those tough days, would that be some of the days possibly when y'all would start at 9:30 or 10 o'clock? Or do you know?
How late we stayed was not dependent on when time the doors opened. It depended on how many clients were there when the doors were supposed to close.
Okay. Do you know some of those days were days when the doors would open at 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock?
I'm sure that's true.
So you were not trying to get out of your hours?
No, sir, I worked through lunch every day. I wasn't given a lunch break if there were clients on the floor, and I didn't complain about that because I thought I was going to be getting my hours. If I had to stay till 5, 6 o'clock, again, I did not complain because I was going to be getting my hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fine with me.
If you didn't start till 10 o'clock that morning and you worked till 5,
Mhm.
you were not expecting her to give you any free hours.
No, sir, I just want to be given credit for the hours that I was there.
Okay. And you would work after hours, sometimes 2, 3 times a week.
Yes, sir.
You got your kit.
Mhm.
You had a locker there.
Yes, sir.
And the equipment that you said there were occasions you would run out of some of the equipment or some of the materials that you needed, such as gloves or something. Would she replace those and give you new boxes of gloves, I guess, would you do it?
Eventually.
And you said, you think it was 2 weeks after you started, you got your kit.
I can't remember exactly when I got my kit. I would say within a month.
Would you, when you punch in and punch out with your time card, did you check your hours to make sure they were accurate?
Yes. The problem that I had with the punch-in is that a lot of times they didn't make sense, and I couldn't figure out what what it meant. If, for example, if it was 9:30 and I punched in, it might say 8:15 p.m. And when I asked about it, I was told it would be taken care of and fixed.
How many students would be on the premises on a regular basis?
It could be anywhere from 1 to maybe 5 or 6.
With regards to the use of the stuff in the kit, you had, I think as Ms. Morris described, the community items.
Yes, yes, sir.
So I mean, you had access to what may have been in your kit, you had access to use that?
Yes, sir.
Now, you said Steve Young asked you not to go back to school.
He said it would be unhealthy for me to go back
And why was it unhealthy for you to go back?
because there was a threatening atmosphere at the school.
Threatening that she was difficult with the students?
Threatening in that threats were made towards students.
Threats were made to the students. And so you called him and he told you not to go back. Did you know how many hours you had at the time you were told not to go back?
I didn't know how many hours officially that I had.
Did you check with the board?
I checked later that day, yes.
Okay, and you determined how many you had, and which was
I was just over 1,000.
1,037.
Yes.
And if Mr. Young had not told you not to return, would you have gone back and finished your hours or attempted to?
I don't know that I would have. I don't know if I emotionally and mentally could have handled it.
You work otherwise?
No, sir.
You never worked while you were in school?
No.
You work now?
No, sir. I'm married and my husband works.
You were married while you were in school?
Yes.
You said not enough sinks.
Yes.
How many sinks were there supposed to be that you know of?
How many were there supposed to be or how many were actually working?
How many were there supposed to be?
I'm not sure what the regulations are.
Okay, how many were working? When you say working, explain that to me, please.
What I mean by working sinks is that the actual plumbing, the hot and cold water work, that there was an actual chair available at the sink, and that it wasn't blocked by any equipment or apparatus that would make getting to that sink impossible. I would say 3.
Have you attempted to go back anywhere and make an effort to finish your hours?
I've contacted every school within 100 miles of my house. Only one of them will accept transfers, and they will only accept 500 hours. And I would have to pay the full tuition and still have to complete 1,000 hours. And there is no way that I would be able to afford that.
So, your records reflect you have 1,037 hours, right? You believe you got 1,500 hours.
I would say at least.
You have nothing to back that up with outside of the school records, correct?
That's true.
Okay. And you think you ought to be allowed to take the test, albeit all your records reflect that you don't have the requisite 1,500 hours. Is that what you're telling me?
I don't think I'm trying to get something for nothing.
I'm not asking that. Regardless of what the records reflect, you believe you should be able to take the test at this time because you think you have 1,500 hours.
Yes, because I believe the records are wrong.
But you have nothing to refute that.
Well, not really.
You said you did have some lectures.
Yes, sir.
I guess you'll watch videos on procedure.
Yes.
Were you ever late for school?
I would say rarely, if ever. I was usually there when the doors open.
You took some days off?
Rarely.
on the times when she was teaching and the times she was instructing. I mean, I don't know whether you would be in a position to tell me one way or the other, but was she a good teacher,
I thought so, yes.
good instructor?
Yes, sir.
But you're not complaining about her abilities, you're complaining about the fact that you didn't get the hours you needed to pay.
Yes, sir.
Give me 1 second here. Oh, a couple of things. I understand, you said you cashed in an insurance policy and paid your tuition.
Yes, sir.
And your schedule at one time, I understand, was Tuesday through Saturday, and then you switched it to Wednesday through Saturday at some point?
But my hours was, yes, but my hours were still 30 hours per week.
I also understand at some point that Ms. Dural, Ms. Nelda offered you a scholarship.
Yes,
You turned it down?
yes.
Why is that?
This was after October and when I was given a record of my hours that were 900 hours. At this point, I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel as far as being able to even finish the mandatory hours at that point. Because if I had been there a year and only gotten 900 hours, I would have to be there another year to get the 1,500. And then I would have to be there another year maybe to get the 500 hours required for the instructor license. So I did turn it down for those reasons.
So your intent at one point was to become an instructor?
No, sir.
So you offered a scholarship, you turned it down?
Yes.
And what did you decide, not to go back at all
To school or to become an instructor?
to school?
If I could find a school that where I could finish the last of my hours, then I would.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Any board members, questions?
I have a question. You said y'all were always busy with clients,
Yes, ma'am.
but you did state that you only had done one client the whole time you were there. Am I wrong?
Oh, I'm sorry
Yeah.
if I wasn't completely understood. When I was speaking
One
about,
haircut?
yes, one haircut, but I did many clients every day. I mean, if I had to estimate, I would say I worked on hundreds of clients.
How
But
many clients you believe walk into that shop?
It would depend.
On a daily
On a
basis.
daily basis, it would depend. Like on a Wednesday, we might only get 2 or 3. On a busy Saturday, we might get 20. And if there were only 2 students there that day, you know, it was a busy day.
Is this the book you studied from?
I think the one I have is an older edition. I have it with me, if you'd like to see it.
Brown.
Let's see. I did one yet. Yes.
Anyone else have?
Oh, one more thing. You said y'all had to write lines
Yes, ma'am.
for what?
That's how we would be punished if a student did something out of line, or that's how we would be disciplined. We would be made to write lines or essays.
Okay.
Good. Do you have
First.
anything? Can I go first?
Oh,
You
yeah.
write essays on procedures?
Are the
Oh, I'm
board
sorry.
members finished? No more questions? Okay.
I'm sorry. That was some of the federal judges. You write essays on procedure or things of that nature?
There would be general essays, like why do you want to be a cosmetologist? What do you like about cosmetology? That sort of thing.
Okay.
And the lines would generally be something that was written on the board that we would have to write like 50 or 100 times.
Thank you.
Can you give us an example of a line that you had to write?
One line, and I'm not going to be able to remember it verbatim. I remember we had to, it was a fairly long sentence, and it went something like, cosmetology makes me feel like $1 million bill. It was longer than that, but I don't remember the entirety of it, but it was something like that.
How many times would you have to write it?
I think that one was 50.
A scholarship was mentioned a few minutes ago. What were the terms of the scholarship?
As far as I recall, I don't really remember any terms being given. As far as like, I mean, a scholarship, I guess, would imply that it would be free. But I wasn't interested, so I didn't ask about any sort of specifics.
Was it a free scholarship to complete your cosmetology training?
Oh, no, it was for an instructor license.
Okay, so the terms were that you'd have to first complete hours for your cosmetology license.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you would have to take the instructor's course.
Yes, ma'am.
And then would you have to teach at the school?
That was not discussed.
Okay. But it wasn't a scholarship to complete the program you had started.
Yes, that's exactly right. It was not to complete the cosmetology course.
Nothing further.
Can I ask one more question? You said you paid your tuition
Yes, ma'am, in full.
in full for 1,500 hours?
Yes, ma'am.
For
I would-
1,500 hours?
Yes, I have paid in
So
full.
you also said if you were to go back, you were gonna have to start paying by the hour
If
to finish your course?
my contract was from November to November. Any hours that I had to go after that November, I would have to pay. It's on my contract. I think you have a copy of it. We would have to pay by the hour that we were there, in addition to the total tuition that we had already paid.
It's normal? Just asking.
Usually not 12 months, so.
Yeah, it's usually longer.
It's usually longer.
It's usually longer than
It's usually holidays and stuff like that.
Thank you.
My final question is, what are you asking the board? What was the purpose of you promising?
I was there for over 13 months, and I worked extremely hard and without complaint. I paid my tuition in full. I was there on time. I stayed late 2 to 3 days out of the week because I knew that I had to finish within that year, because there was no way I could afford to stay later than that. I'm asking, I know that I have at least 1,500 hours, and I would like to be able to take the practical exam and be given the opportunity to get my license. That's all that I personally want. In addition to that, I would like this to never happen to anyone else again.
I ask that this witness speaks against her proceeding and reminded that she's under the rules of administration.
Ma'am, what she's saying is you can go home, you don't have to testify anymore, but you're still under the rule of sequestration. So as long as the hearing's going on, you're precluded from discussing your testimony with any other witnesses like we talked about earlier.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. That's it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then, Hartman?
Do y'all need a little break, a 5-minute break? No?
Okay, I'm Tom Cosmo. Should we order pizza?
We got 5 minutes.
Oh, I'll-